So I'll start off with a personal story. I've been listening to music since I was a kid. I even asked my mom when was the first time that I listened to music, and she said even when she was pregnant with me. So I guess technically you could say I've been listening to music since before I was born, and it's been a big part of my life, both for entertainment purposes and like just block noise out, whatever. And I thought to myself, well, I listen to music a lot, so I thought, is it useless entertainment? And turns out it's not. Today, I will be outlining some benefits of listening to music, and I've researched this topic enough, and I've personally benefited from listening to music. And also, not even just listening to music, but learning an instrument helps a lot too. And I personally started, recently picked up a guitar, but I'm still a beginner. This is important for everyone, I think, because music's everywhere nowadays, whether it's in the background of TV commercials, advertisements, soundtracks of movies, etc. Today, I want to share with you 3 benefits of listening to music or even learning music. Those 3 topics are 1, music helps reduce depression, 2, increase verbal intelligence, and 3, keeps your brain healthy at an old age. I'll start with how music reduces depression. Studies have proven that music helps reduce depression, and the reason is because music affects our hormones and releases certain hormones. It could be considered a natural antidepressant because certain music causes the release of serotonin and dopamine, which are neurotransmitters in the brain that lead to feelings of happiness and well-being. Also releases norepinephrine, which invokes euphoria, and euphoria is the feeling or state of intense excitement or happiness. As you can see, they kind of have the same chemicals in them, so they have the same effect. And the way to help you reduce depression by listening to music is to listen to music before going to sleep. Research by the World Health Organization says that more than 350 million people suffer from depression around the world, and that's 5% of the population. Study recorded by the Journal of Advanced Nursing had 2 groups. One listened to music before they went to sleep, the other group didn't. And symptoms of depression only reduced in the group that listened to music. But it does matter what type of music you listen to, for example, classical or anything calm. Personally, I like Pink Floyd, so that works too. And basically, relaxing music works the best. You can't listen to heavy metal and expect to go to sleep. Music also helps increase certain learning skills. Studies show that music helps increase verbal intelligence. Michelle Chappelle, who has a PhD in psychology, said, after 1 month of music lessons, study at York University showed 90% of children ages 4 to 6 had a significant increase in verbal intelligence. Basically, that means, or Sylvia Moreno suggested that music training had a transfer effect, which enhanced children's ability to understand words and explain their meaning, which is what the study, those were the results of the study. And the transfer effect means that cognitive benefits and skills developed in the study carried over to their other learning subjects. This works for both adults and children. Musically trained adult women and children outperformed those with no training on verbal memory tests, and that was conducted in the same study as previously stated. The results are correlational only to the study, but strong predictive effects of training duration suggest that instrumental music training may enhance auditory discrimination, fine motor skills, vocabulary, and nonverbal reasoning. And these were the results. This is the results of the IQ test of the trained and untrained subjects. Learning music also helps you in general. Music keeps the brain healthy at an old age, specifically learning to play like an instrument. More time and experience that you have with an instrument, the better. A study with older adults found that those with 10 or more years of music experience scored higher on cognitive tests than musicians with less experience. And studying an instrument requires years of practice and learning, and it may create alternate connections in the brain that could compensate for cognitive declines as we get older. And that says the study was conducted by a woman named Brenda Glenn. It's kind of hard to see, but as you can see, this is the brain without listening to music, and it's not as active. And this is the brain listening and playing the music, and there's a lot much more activity. And it's never too late to start learning an instrument. For example, Warren Buffett, he played the ukulele at age 84, and I think that's when he learned it. And he used that because he's very into business, and he has to keep active. And anyone can start at any age of learning an instrument. You know, there's stories of kids learning the piano at age 4 or 5, and like I just said, Warren Buffett at age 84. But obviously, the sooner you learn, the better, because you will have more experience. As you can see, there are many benefits of music. Anyone can benefit from it at any age. It reduces depression, it increases cognitive skills, and it helps you stay sharp at an old age. Music isn't just for entertainment, as I thought, but it can also be for cognitive skills, etc.
Xavier.
The central idea for it was that music has benefits, and the thesis statement and the purpose statement were pretty much the same, to share with us the 3 benefits of listening to music. The 2 things I liked about your speech that I thought were strong were, in the very beginning you explained to us serotonin, dopamine, how it affected the body, and what the terms meant for it, and I thought that was really good because I don't think everyone in the class would have like a thorough understanding of that. I thought the timing of the slides were pretty good. You brought up the information when you needed it and explained it thoroughly. 2 things you probably needed to improve on was maybe some of the eye contact. I saw you looking at the flashcards quite a lot. The transitions, they were okay, but there were some parts where you could work on that a little bit. And the effectiveness of the visual aids, I thought they were pretty good, but seemed a little like they weren't enough. They were good and explained the topic pretty well, but I guess you could have put like a few more in there to, I guess, like to get the audience a little more engaged a little bit. And I thought your presentation overall was pretty good. I liked it. It was timed really well, and for me personally, I thought it was pretty interesting.
All right, thank you. Please don't stand while you're doing it. It makes you feel like a target. You know, like people are pointing at you and sending things in your direction. You know, we're having a conversation here, so that's the way we want it to come across here. And I appreciate it. He just started talking, and you're standing there, so it makes sense. But I can't do that. I feel a little bit awkward doing that. There's a lot about the speech that I think works really well. You do have a very clear statement of what your purpose is. There's an excellent preview of what the supporting points are. It's clearly organized so we can see what all the supporting points are. Now let me give you the contrary issue on that particular point. You need to have smoother transitions between the points, because like you get to that first point and it's just like you hit the gas right there. There needs to be a little bit of a lead into that and a reminder that this is the point that we're talking about. And this is one of those places where the more you do this, the more practice you get doing these kinds of things, it becomes a little bit more natural to do that. The example that I just used a driving example. Let me give you another one. Almost all skills, we go through different stages as we're learning the skills. You know, when we first learn the skills, we remember them, but we have to think about them and go through the process, and it feels a little mechanical when you're first doing it. Did you guys learn to drive? When you learned to drive, did they teach you the SMOG acronym? Signal, mirror, over your shoulder, go when safe. You know, SMOG. Signal, mirror, over the shoulder, go when safe. And you go through that progression. It's like mechanical. Okay, I signaled, I'm checking my mirror, I'm looking over my shoulder, and now I'm going. And you do that sort of thing. That's kind of the stage that you're at here. You can see that you're doing what it is that you're supposed to do, but it looks a little bit and it sounds a little bit unnatural because it's not integrated into your presentation as well. So you've hit the technical points, but you got to get it, flowing a little bit more smoothly. That's on the transitions. On the supporting material, I heard lots of sources being cited. That was pretty good. The only place where I didn't hear any citation of information was on that first section when you're talking about the dopamine, the serotonin, and the nephrine. I know you got that information from someplace, but I don't know where it came from. And since we're on that point, the visual, it doesn't really help very much. It's giving us the chemical designs up on the. Okay, I didn't take chemistry. I'm looking at that going, okay, I know that there's a difference there. I can see slight differences there, but that doesn't really help me. What would help me is some kind of indication about what kind of music produces the most serotonin, or how much dopamine is required in order to get to this effect that you're talking about, or the euphoria that comes from the other one. How do we notice that, or something like that? Something along those lines probably would have helped. It wasn't that it was bad, it just didn't help add anything to the presentation. It was mostly just a label for those sections of material. Whereas I think in the rest of the speech, most of the visuals, I think, were trying to help us understand something. They're giving us a signal that you're in a new spot, or you could see something different. Like the brain image that you had at the end, I thought that was pretty effective at showing, activity of the brain that's going on there. So the citation of the information, I did think that the visuals were nicely planned. It looked like you had thought about how to present them. You had the blank slides between when you didn't need it, and you went to it at the right point when you were trying to reference something. So that's all good. That's really solid. I needed a little bit more explanation earlier on the bar graph that you had, because I'm going trained and untrained, and I'm immediately thinking, what the heck are you talking about that? It would have made more sense, for instance, for you to tell us about that study, explain what the difference is, and then showed the slide and say, okay, so like when they're talking about untrained, you didn't have any experience with music, you hadn't learned an instrument, or you didn't have any background on it. Here's what the scoring on your IQ was, whereas people who did have this, here's what the scoring was, and you can see how substantially different it is. Let me see. I thought that you did a good job presenting. I do know what Xavier's talking about. You need to look up a little bit more often, but it didn't really seem like you were reading a lot. It just seemed like you kind of keep looking down to see where you are at any given point, instead of just kind of knowing where you are at any given point. And it's another one of those things that's the skillful kind of process that I'm talking about. You'll get better at that the more you do that. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.